Right. I did promise you guys that today was going to be explosive. Put your hands up if you're having a good time. Wow. Thank you very much, boss. I couldn't stop writing. It felt like he said an MBA. But as you'd expect, we all exist or operate at different levels. So some of the buzzwords you've used in your presentation might just as fly over some of our heads. So our goal is to have you dive down on just two questions that I think is critical, and that's all streaming from your presentation. So if you'd indulge me, you did, in one of your slides, you urged leaders to measure trust, not just cost. How do you quantify trust in RTM? And why does it matter more in West Africa than matured markets?
Okay, it works. Thank you. Yeah, I try to flex the levels, but I do get the point, and I'm happy to drill down a little bit. Conscious that I've taken so much time, so I'm not going to make the answers long-winded, but trust is absolutely critical. Trust is absolutely critical in emerging markets like West Africa, and that's why I call it out. It's often in many other markets, more developed markets, whether you're in the US, the EU, or even South Africa and Africa, and it's an important word, but it's often soft. In West Africa, trust is a hard skill. Trust actually is a supply chain's immune system. It is absolutely critical. And when we think about trust, there are metrics that you can measure if you want to try to bring that to life. You can think about run rates, for example, which show the reordering in the last mile customers, the last mile shopper. These are things that you can measure in terms of that. Promise fulfillment, in terms of the orders they made and how they benchmark versus the deliveries. These are measures that you can actually look at, and you can then say, hey, am I fulfilling, am I having a trust-built relationship in the ecosystem with the end consumer? It is absolutely critical. I gave the example where I talked about how, and I took it down to the lowest level because I wanted to flex that, how being a sales rep, a van sales rep, which was what I was at the time, and then eventually as a open market sales reps, which I did in Wuse 2 open market, Wuse 2 and Gariki open markets in Abuja, I was able to build the business the best when the customers that saw me weekly knew exactly the day they would see me, the time they would see me, and they could count on it. They didn't need to stress themselves, spend transport money. They knew I could come in, and then they could manage their working capital better because they could buy in bite-sized chunks for like a week and be able to serve their own end consumers. And that trust, without that, there is no business. And so these trust coefficients are things that we need to now scale up and measure at an organizational level. At an organizational level, taking order fulfillment, customer service levels, cost to serve, market share. These elements are then have to be tracked because, like I said, in emerging markets, it's existential. It's the difference between living and dying, and it's actually the entire business, not just supply chain's immune system. It's absolutely essential.
I think you're absolutely correct, and some of the data guys in the room will begin to think, how do I build a trust dashboard? I think it's something we all have to take away and try to figure it out in our different verticals, because, I mean, if you can't measure it, then you can't count it. So thank you very much for that response. And the last but final question is, when you're rounding up, you did mention about talent. You spoke a lot about talent. You called for talent that think like brand owners. What skills should we prioritize in field teams for future-proof RTM, and how can we train at scale?
Okay, that's an excellent question. There's a lot. Like I remember when I started, I said there's a myriad or a buffet of things that we could talk about route to market, but we have just 1 hour. And so for this question, we just have about a minute or so. So I will focus on just a few, because when you talk about the skills, and I would try to classify them from hard skills and soft skills. Because overarchingly, more and more, the field teams have to become general manager types. You see a lot in the past, back in the day, with the old systems, certainly when I grew up, most general managers, most MDs, most CEOs came from either brand, strictly brand building, because this was companies, especially in the FMCG world, they spoke to the consumer, they had that brand product vision, or they came from finance because they could manage P&L, the metrics that ensure sustainable, profitable revenue growth, right, and optimize cash. But more and more in the evolving ecosystem, you see that a lot of sales commercial types now lead organizations as, sales directors, commercial directors, MDs, CEOs, and she's nodding. So yes, either you're a CEO, you're going to be one very soon. I can see it, sister. Well, and that's because more and more to be successful, the things you need to be successful as an end-to-end proper effective salesman, needed to be a brand owner, think like a brand owner, and have an end-to-end view of the business, right? So when you think about the hard skills, it goes beyond, like I was talking with my friend there who, she says she's selling and she's sold and she's still selling. It goes beyond the great skills which are absolutely necessary, like steps of a call, persuasive selling format, the PSF, managing distributors. It goes beyond that to things like, and managing distributors, top to tops and joint business plans. It goes beyond that to things like being data literate, digital literate. You need to get the skills where you're able to interpret dashboards and be able to understand trends, understand where gaps are, so that you can formulate plans to take care of those gaps. Those data points are absolutely crucial for you to come up with plans to design to win in your areas of responsibility, whether it's a territory, zone, area, region, national. But it also helps you to educate your ecosystem, right? Like your distributors or your partners. When we built the sub-distributor model, we realized that we're in rural areas and semi-urban rural areas where we met partners who were passionate, who were able to access capital, but were not exactly as capable as they could be in terms of how to manage businesses. You then, as the person, as the representative of the company who interacts with them as a salesman or a commercial guy, has to be able to help them upskill to be able to run their business P&Ls at their sub-distributor levels. Understand their balance sheet, understand how they can drive growth, but at the same time maintain their cash flow. So digital literacy, data literacy is a crucial skill that needs to be done. I would also talk about financial acumen. It's related. Absolutely essential. I mean, if it's probably a number one skill, every salesperson now, it's not about just the gift of the gab or communication or negotiation. It's about financial acumen, because features tell, but benefits sell. And financial benefits oversell. And your greatest strength is where you're able to translate that to your customers and be able to show them what the financial value is if they buy into your proposition. It also allows you to run a business in a viable way. So when you think about hard skills, it's about digital literacy, it's about financial acumen, it's about brand building, which is why I say it's all encompassing. And I know my friend there, the creative genius, will like that. You have to be a brand owner because in the marketplace, to your customers, you represent the brand. And you have to be able to make choices that allow you win. And understanding that allows you to be able to make it. If I'm selling in Lagos, in Ikoyi, VI, Yaba, Akowonjo, I can get into a store and take, in PZ, from the consumer side of that business, there's over 100 SKUs. I can have a must-win, must-sell list of SKUs that is 70 SKUs, and I try to put it in a big store, in a Just Right. But if I'm now selling in Choba or Goja or Shaki in Oyo State, I can't sell that range, so I need to be choiceful on what's my must-win list that allows me to unlock the best value for my customers and meet their consumers. And so at that time, it might be 10 SKUs, 10 power SKUs that I need to sell. I have to have an understanding of the brand features, how it benefits those consumers there to be able to sell that and get value, because those will be the brands and SKUs that will resell so that the guy buys from you next time and sees you as a credible business partner. So I would say brand knowledge is an important one, and that's the hard skills. Soft skills, and this is to end, will be you need to be a great problem solver. You need to encourage your people to problem solve. From the most simplistic things like how I know the aggregated routes to be able to get to my customers, but what if there's traffic, or what if there's road construction or a car breakdown? How do I do that so that I can deliver trust, which is on time, unscheduled, frequent deliveries? It's about problem solving. It's about being agile, being flexible, and acting as owners. I think I'll close by saying these skills are critical, and like I said during the presentation, all the resources in the world, all the great brand plans, all the great products are phenomenal stuff, but they all fall flat if your people are not enrolled and cannot and or will not act as owners with a maximum passion, with a maximum sense of urgency, sense of ownership, and fire to drive your business and your brands.
Ladies and
Thank
gentlemen.
you very much. Thank you so very much. It's not many times you have this many people sitting down for this long time listening to somebody. It shows there's a lot more where that come from.